This ought to be fun. Hello. Welcome back to my music corner, or I guess what you can see of it, to discuss something very simple. I would like to make a Q&A video. I mentioned this in the end of year wrap up, but just due to the length of time it is taking for Crown for No King to come together, I want to do a Q&A first. I was planning to introduce things in a different order. This is the one that makes the most sense. I think since you'll be seeing me for a little bit longer before you see Crown for No King, I'm going to hold a Q&A that would come out sometime in February or March. Please comment in this video or send me an email or however it is you can manage to contact me. And with a question. I will have the people I know and some of the people who work with me in Northbound. I'm going to have them ask questions as well, and at the end of it, I am hoping to put together a rough introduction, seeing what I can cobble together. Please do that. The more questions you have, I'd just be happy to answer them, and the better you'll get to know me. So that is basically everything I want to say for the immediate term. But I have a goal with this channel where I don't want to have a dead video. I don't want there to be anything on this channel that you could click on or stumble upon or just comb through and wouldn't be meaningful. So I opened my phone and I picked a random piece of news to talk about. The first one I saw was I follow gaming a lot. I really like games. I want to develop games. I love playing games. I saw a comment about the CEO of Arrowhead saying that, responding to something about DEI in games and basically saying something along the lines of, I think it was that, like, DEI is not necessary for every game, and it should only be in the game if it makes it better. And people seem to take exception to that. I want to basically say that I see why that could be a concerning comment. I get the tone of that. I get the tone of, I also, to be clear, don't know the CEO of Arrowhead. I have not investigated his track record. I don't know with how much good faith that comment was made. I also think that it's pretty valid. I think, very basically, that any decision you make when making art should be made in service of that art. I think that there are stories that could be hurt by the introduction of something for the sake of something outside of the art. In fact, I think that is true of just about all the art you can make. I legitimately believe that you should not add a season's pass to a video game just to have a season's pass, just to make it a live service. I think that it can hurt your game to do so. It forces you to make design choices that do not benefit the story you're telling. I think that there are similarly stories that would be hurt by the introduction of DEI for, which, by the way, diversity, equality, and, oh no, I'm forgetting the I. I think it's inclusivity. I don't remember off the top of my head. Regardless, I think there are stories, especially brutal and confronting ones, that could be heard, that benefit from a narrow perspective, a narrow and unenlightened or perspective. That there are When Alan Moore wrote The Watchmen, he explicitly didn't want Superman in it. He felt that he wanted it to be a recognizable cast, but did not let Superman in because it would hurt what he was trying to do, because what Superman represents, what it means, would have hurt the story he was trying to tell. So instead, he had Captain Atom. There are stories, especially confronting ones, that do not benefit from a wider scope, where you are trying to capture the brutality. You are trying to capture the narrow mindedness. There are ways that it can genuinely help what you are trying to achieve to narrow your scope. I also think the number of stories or pieces of art that would not benefit from a wider perspective are very, very narrow. It's possible that, in fact, it's guaranteed that there are more creative people out there who have a story in mind that they could only tell by being as cutthroat as possible, and or by really highlighting something utterly, utterly confronting. I think those stories exist, and I think those stories are valuable. I think all of human experience is a tool in an artist's hands, and it is up to the artist to use them responsibly. Not all art is good, but a lot of the art that is good is done so surgically. Uh, I think that I genuinely believe that there are times, places that nothing should ever be off the table, basically. I think that absolutely everything should always be on the table when you are trying to make something great, something that you really want to make, something that I don't think that anything should be written off. I think that you do have to justify everything you do. I think that you need to feel good about the choices you make when you make them. But I think that art is only ever hurt by narrowing the idea of what art is or can be. I think that's fair. I I can think of stories that fit this mold. I don't want to necessarily argue about it, though I'm sure some people will. Uh, but I think art is best when art is free. And I think that genius needs a lot of room. I think it has to be responsible. I can think of so many times when it is done irresponsibly, or it is done for the shock value, or it is done for some reason other than making this piece of art as good as it can possibly be. But flawed characters are important. Pain is important. Catharsis happens when you are handling big emotions. The best pieces of catharsis I have ever experienced from a story happen when they are handling something I wouldn't have known how to deal with otherwise. That story can be that guide. That is helpful, that is valid, and sometimes you have to go down some pretty dark paths to get there. If you know what you're doing, if you're doing it responsibly, if you're doing it for the right reason. The other thing I want to say, and this is the part where I purely just ask you to go and listen to people who are better qualified than I am. Very simply. That is just the best explanation of it. That there are people, the only thing I can do is be the best ally I can possibly be. To listen, to learn, to understand, or try to understand. To be honest about getting things wrong, and to try and do them better next time. That is all I can do. And I work pretty hard to make sure I can do that. But There are people for whom it's not learned experiences but lived experiences who have thought far more about this or have been forced to think far more about this, and they are always a better resource. There are millions of them for every issue you can imagine. Those are always the people you should go to. But if you are trying to be an ally, please remember that allies and just everybody, anyone for any cause, always, the thing you have to do, you must do, is remember to make the right argument for the right reason. It is so easy to be angry. It is so easy to just want to be right, to want to point a finger, and sometimes you just can. Whether or not it will convince anybody, whether or not it's constructive, you can. There are times when people are simply wrong, and it doesn't even take the right argument to demonstrate why they're wrong, and it doesn't have to be constructive, it just is. But the thing we have to do, the end goal has to be to advance the conversation, to evolve everybody in it, to elevate the people who you are fighting for and the people you are fighting against. You have to bring them to the point where they don't just believe you, but they want to believe you. These are human problems, and you have to convince everyone that everyone in the argument is human. That tends to be the problem. When you make the wrong argument, when you say something silly or inconsiderate or untrue, when you say something that feels right, or when you say something that is definitive, you hurt the cause you're trying to advance. Purely because, at the very least, regardless of the social cost, regardless of now the person you are talking to is angry and not listening to you, regardless of you may be convincing the person about the wrong thing, regardless, you run into a position where at the bare minimum, to advance whatever cause you are trying to fight for, you now must agree you must agree about the wrong thing. You must say, yes, that was wrong, yes, it needs to be corrected, and then you have to push them even further to get to the right place. You have to take them out of the wrong place, or if they disprove you and you are just reactionary, then you seem uncredible. You must, it is hard, but you have to be better researched, you have to be more open, and you have to be more patient. It is hard, it is difficult, but there are, believe it or not, the right cause can have the wrong argument. There are people in your, inside your issue that might have the wrong point, and you have to accept that, and you have to not go down the wrong path. You need to. Otherwise, it's not just let's ignore that and work on the next thing. It is, we have to work our way back to neutral. You have gone negative. You must get back to zero before you can move forward again. It is a step back every time you do it. I am not saying that this moment in particular is that thing. I am not. I am saying I know a lot of people, and I argue, I have people in my life who I love and respect who are wrong about some things, and I work hard I have been that guy. I have been that guy who has said the wrong thing, who has made the wrong argument, and had to claw my way back to being someone who knows what they're talking about, who knows enough about what they're saying to be listened to, where I have to earn that trust back, and then I have to move forward. It is hard, but it matters. If you believe in the cause that you are trying to advance, you have to be right. It's hard, but it's important. There are so many things I believe in that where arguments get written off because people say you're an internet troll, or you're being reactionary, or you're going too far, or X or Y or Z. And it hurts the things I believe in. Again, if you heard from a better source, if you hear from an activist, if there is someone with more credibility than me who tells you otherwise, I would be hard-pressed to believe them, but they would be a better source than me. That is simply true. Fight for what you believe in. Fight for the people who are fighting for themselves. That's how this whole thing works. We're all in it together. It matters to everybody, even if, like me, it clearly doesn't matter to your person and your life. You can go your whole life without these things ever impacting you. Not everyone gets that privilege, and it is so important that we are all on the same page, that we are all educated on this, and that we all understand that it's a human issue. So those are the two things I'd like to say. Those are the two things that I think will probably always be true, that art needs space for creative freedom, and that if you want to fight for a cause, be right about it. I think those are 2 points that are very, very simple, but ones I genuinely hope that people would have learned already. But if ever someone needed to hear it, as many voices as possible should be shouting it loud. So here's mine. This is hopefully the last video I do from my little corner for a while. Crown for No King is coming along. I will see you next week, and the Q&A will be out.